Hello, hello. Welcome to Training Tuesday for practitioners. Laura, I'm so glad you're here. Hi. Hi. It might just be you and me today for the first few minutes anyway, who knows? And I'm so glad everybody's here. Even if you're watching on the replay, super glad that you're here. Let me do a brief introduction and then Laura, I have a pressing question for you. So I'm so glad to see your face. I know. Welcome to Training Tuesday for practitioners. It's one of my favorite times of the week. Because I get to pour into you and I get to hear what you're up to. And yes, we get to stay in the work. For those of you who've never been here before, welcome. I'm so glad to see you here or to know that you're here again, even if you're on the replay. I'm Gina Schatz. I'm the developer of the Schatz method. I am both a manual and movement practitioner. I blurred them together and came up with this fabulous method to alleviate pain at the source, and it works. And now I train other practitioners to do the same thing. On Training Tuesdays, what I'm here to do is to pour into you on whatever it is that you're up to, whether you're a movement practitioner or a manual practitioner, or if you're also both, that's cool too. And we troubleshoot some client stuff. We ask some questions about anatomy. I chat and riff for 20 to 30 minutes, and then you guys chime in and ask some questions. And I actually have a whole list of questions today that came in from those of you who have not been here live, and I get to address them today, which is so great. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to do a little FAQ, frequently asked questions, or at least it was a one-time asked question, and I want to address it for you. But Laura, when I saw you last, you were working hot and heavy with a client, and I believe at this point, if I kept track of the calendar, you've seen that client again. Do you want to give us a little update? What's going on?
Okay, so I saw the client last week and actually last night as well. Do you want me to dive into it right away, or what do you want me to do right here? Because I want you to make sure you have your time to do your thing.
Oh, I will always have time to do my thing. Don't you worry. But thank you for asking. But you know what I'm thinking? If somebody who's here listening didn't hear you 2 weeks ago.
Do you want me to kind of recap?
Yeah, give us a bullet point of what we're working on so that they can also work with their strategic thinking and what would they do if they were in those shoes with that client with that stuff. And then we'll hear what the update is.
Okay. So I have a client, and I had the dates a little wrong. I actually went back to my notes and got more accurate. So right around late October, he started complaining about area in his elbow-ish area kind of hurting. He had been working on a shed in his yard, but he also has a very physical job as it is. He's a superintendent at a golf course. So the summer is super labor intensive for him anyway, right? He's just a very busy as far as his body. He uses his body a lot in his work. It's not like he's just, sitting sedentary in an office or something of that nature.
We love that.
So, yeah. So at first I was like, okay, maybe this is just a thing. And then now it's January 24th. We're still having this same issue. And of course, I'm of the school of get things checked out, but he's one of those people that doesn't like to get things checked out. So it's okay. Some people, are fearful of going to the doctor, and I get that. So so I was just trying to sort of pinpoint, as you always say, Gina, and I think about it all the time. And in fact, I said it to somebody on Instagram yesterday because she was talking about her knee bothering her a little bit, and knowing that it wasn't the actual knee joint that was where the pain was coming from. And I was like, yeah, because 80% of pain in the body is referred from somewhere else. And she's like, yes. And so she knew that too. So I was like, woo. She's all right. A trainer. So that was good. It's always exciting to see other people and practitioners knowing that information and knowing they're not just trying to drill into that one area.
Yes.
So then I kind of got I saw him last Wednesday. So whatever, a week ago tomorrow. And so I was asking him more drill down questions after we had spoken in terms of the position he was in when he was doing said activity, that seemed to maybe have caused, I'm going to say that in quotations, because it could be, a lot of things, and it just came to a halt at some point, that maybe had caused the pain or whatever. What positions, which exercises, don't feel good to him right now, and which exercises are okay in elbow flexion and extension. And then let me look at my notes because I have everything pulled up for you.
Yes.
And we talked about the quality of the four curves of the spine. So I do have photos, by the way, as well. His spine in a push-up, we had talked about push-up last week, and his spine was actually not as stiff as I thought it was. But man, last night when we were doing cat-cow in yoga, like he just does not have a lot of like flexion. I mean, it's very rigid. I mean, there's just not a lot of movement there. So yeah, so I had him do like rows, and I can show you in photos, like where he said, like when he's rowing, like where he feels like the pain and the discomfort. So yeah, so that's kind of where we're at. So I came back with some data, which is good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully.
So interesting, in rowing, he still has elbow pain.
Rowing elbow pain, but not in a push-up. I was wrong. So push-ups are actually not uncomfortable. In a row, and I can again show you a picture, but it's when he's like up, like in that little bit of like flexion. And then when he's all the way back down in extension. And then he actually, I had him like literally, I have a picture of him going like this and kind of showing me where he feels like it is. He seems to think it's intrinsic. He definitely thinks it's more, he thinks nerve. Because he's like, it just feels like it's inner, it doesn't feel like it's bone or like it's something that's like on the outside. So again, I'm just repeating what I'm hearing, sort of thing. Yeah, but no, and then like a side plank on the forearm is okay too. So it's interesting. It's more like in a row position, and then yeah, basically like in a row position is probably the most. I didn't have him do like a bicep curl or anything like that. But in that pulling position.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I suspect the sacrum, but I'm going to tell you about that in a minute. Did you say you have like a whole show and tell? You've got images?
I do.
Okay, question for you. Is his face in the pictures?
No.
Okay, great. You want to share them?
Yeah.
Let's see if I can I spy with my little eye.
Should I throw them in the chat? Can I do that?
You do a share screen?
Yeah, you want to share screen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me pull it up really quick before I do that.
All right.
I had them, like I exported them to a folder so I could just pull them up really quick for you. So they're not like.
I love that you do this whole presentation, Laura. I love it.
I like to have my act together. I don't like to.
I know it. I love your act. It's always together. I totally love it.
I don't like you're taking the time to do this for us. And I'm just like, I want to make sure that it's,
It's all good. So while you're pulling up that data, and for those of us who are eagerly anticipating what's coming next, question for the crew: what are nerve symptoms? What are the 4 classic nerve symptoms? Right. So we get to review that because I heard you say that your client thinks it's a nerve problem.
Yeah.
Why do we think that clients say it's a nerve problem? Why are they into diagnosis at that point? Why are they saying nerve of all things?
I'm thinking because they don't feel like it's like on the outside. Maybe they feel like it's more internal. So they automatically think, or maybe they're feeling some kind of like, I don't know when I say the word vibration, but some type of like when I felt like something was nerve back in the day, I kind of felt like it was a little like twingy or like a little, like, it felt like it was more like I was feeling like it was kind of off center, or like a little like kind of buzzy. I don't know. That's not a great way to describe it, but that's kind of where I'm at with adjectives at the moment.
No, I love it. You said 2 key phrases, actually, Laura. You said twingy and you said off center. Yeah. So yes to everything that you thought why a client would say that. And I'll add to that clients often will self-diagnose that it's a nerve problem when one or the other is also present, where it's a serious pain and they can't quite nail it, or they think they haven't explained it enough to let the person know, like, I'm still moving, I'm still rowing, but I'm in pain. So like they're almost trying to reconcile that within themselves because they don't want us to think that they're not in that much pain because they're still able to move.
Yeah.
So that's one way. The other way is because of the type of discomfort that they're feeling. And you mentioned it, like it's not really on the surface. He thinks it's more intrinsic. It's somewhere deep in there, but not kind of nondescript. I can't point at it. Like I'm pointing at my elbow, but I'm not even actually pointing at the pain.
Yeah.
There's somewhere that I can't quite get to. All of that is super key because I've often said our greatest tool is listening. So if we can listen with excruciating discernment, we will actually hear the answer in the question or in the share.
Mhm.
So you said something twingy and off center, which is often an alignment or a ligament issue. Not those, and those are two separate. Twingy would be ligament, off center would be alignment. That's key. That's key. But let's just review, what are the symptoms of nerve involvement? There's 4 primary symptoms of nerve involvement. We all get to know this so that we know for sure, and that we can quantify it with our client, not to make them wrong and be like, that's not right. It's not your nerve. Like, don't get snappy, but we want to know, like, is it a nerve problem? Because that's a whole other ball of wax. That's like almost refer out territory, depending on what your skill set is, right? So what are the symptoms of nerve involvement? Crickets in the group. Crickets, I know, right? 4 primary: numbness, tingling, shooting, and burning pain. Numbness, tingling, shooting, and burning pain. I'll say it again: numbness, tingling, shooting, and burning pain. Those are nerve hands up in the air, the nerve saying, oh my gosh, please, it's me, please, it's me. So if it's not numbness, tingling, shooting, or burning pain, the nerve's not involved. And when I say involved, I'm talking high level here. I don't know to what level of involvement. We're not diagnosing anyone with a pinched nerve. It could be an impingement, but it also might not be impinged or pinched. It might be the way the muscles are interfacing with the joint, making no room for the nerves to move. And the nerves are like, get out of my way. Nerves don't like to be infringed upon. Nerves like assured clear distance. And if muscles are in the way or structural stuff, alignment is not aligned, their nerves will start to be affected. That doesn't always mean refer out. And I'm not telling you not to refer out if you have a nerve symptom. I'm just quantifying what that is. So hear me out. So even if your client did say it was numbness, tingling, shooting, or burning pain, you've also mentioned off center as a experience when you've called it nerve symptom or thought that it was a nerve. And we know now that the common denominator between those two is alignment. Doesn't mean anything's damaged yet. And alignment is in our wheelhouse, whether you're a movement or a manual practitioner. That's straight up our job. Okay, great. Awesome. Glad we got that covered. You got your photos now? Let's see.
And he did give me permission too. So like if his face is, he's like,
love that you asked permission. Love that you asked permission.
He's like, I'll be your guinea pig.
Ooh, he's going to be on YouTube. He's a star.
Oh.
Yes. We always get to ask permission before we take the photo. Yes. And we ask permission before we share it. And even when that happens, I don't add anyone's face in there. All right. Now this is funny.
Okay. Sorry. That was his face is.
Hold on. Yes. Permission. Love that you asked permission.
He's like, I'll be.
There we go. I love when YouTube does that. It talks over me.
Oh, gotcha. It was like the delay.
Yeah, it's in a back. Yeah, it's in a.
My dog better not be a pain in the butt right now. So let's hope not. Okay. So she's looking at me. She's like, the sun's out, Mom. Let's go for a walk.
Considering it. I know.
Okay. So this is one picture. So in this, I don't have people do this exercise, by the way. He was just saying when he picks up a weight like this, that there was pain in the elbow.
Okay. So what joint action are his fingers doing right now?
Well, they're gripping.
Yeah. What's the joint action?
You're going to do something right now. Is that flexion? Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yep. And so we need to know what the joint action is because why? Why do we need to know the joint action? I talk about this in the Applied Principles of Movement workbook that I've shared with all of you guys. It's free on the website. Why do we need to know the joint action? Why is that relevant?
I would think that would be, just gonna ignore her. I think that would be relevant because, I mean, you're not going to pinpoint the pain area if it's like, if you don't know which joints or where the joint is in the movement that's bothering them would be one of them. But I'm sure it's one of your methodologies. Like, is it lever system or?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, because the body's, oh my God, please tell me her name because she's so crazy cute. I can't stand it. Azalea.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it just gets cuter as I'm watching. She's amazing. And I love her. Azalea, I want you to go out too.
Whoa. Hold on, okay.
Like, let me get my answer. This teacher talks a lot. I need a minute. Okay, we'll be quick for Azalea's purposes, okay? The reason why we want to know joint action is because muscles move bone.
Right.
So if we identify the joint action, then we can identify the muscles that are at play in the lever, either the ones that are doing the contracting, the ones that are doing the lengthening, or the ones that are supposed to be doing the contracting and lengthening and aren't. And until we know what that is, we're just shooting darts in the dark.
Yeah.
So interesting, when his metacarpals, I would say all of them at this point, because he's holding on to a weight, when he is in hand flexion, hand's not a joint, but when his metacarpals are in flexion, there's something going on in the lever system, because where are the muscles for the hand?
Well, they're up here in the forearm.
Yeah, they start at the elbow.
Right.
Right. So that would be something to consider. I don't know if that's it, but that's something to consider. Go ahead, tell us the rest.
Okay. So here is a push-up, kind of like almost halfway down. So see, his back's got a little bit more curve in it than I thought. I thought it was more straight, but he's actually got a little bit of a curve there.
Mm-hmm. And he does have pain in his elbow here, or he does not?
Does not.
Interesting. Okay.
Yep. And then I'll go to the next one. I think it's another push-up. It's a little bit clearer. And then, so this is like, I mean, he wasn't, obviously he's not all the way back in a row, like putting his elbow back like he would be normally, but he was just saying like when he's back in that position and he's coming like back forward. Do you know what I'm saying? That like, that's when the elbow starts to kind of feel discomfort.
Okay, so interesting. So what joint action is happening in his shoulder right here?
Internal rotation.
Mm-hmm. And what else? Pop quiz for you, Laura.
Well, I know like when you're doing a row, let's think, internal rotation of the shoulder. It's not abduction or adduction because you're.
Well, the question is what joint action is he in?
What joint action is he in?
Shoulder. What joint action is his shoulder in?
I'm trying to think. Besides internal rotation, he's doing the row.
His humerus is away from his body, right?
Yes, for sure.
What joint action is that?
Abduction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do you want him to be doing abduction and medial rotation of the shoulder to do a row?
No.
Okay. So that's one thing to look at. Sometimes when we just correct the joint action, pain goes away because we want to bring the body to the way it's designed. She's so freaking cute. I mean, I can't even how cute she is. So crazy cute.
Monkey. Yeah. So this was kind of like him just showing me like normally when he does it, he is closer to the body. Like I don't want to say the word should, but like in more of like alignment form or like a little bit better form. He was just showing me like when he comes back down that's where it's like twingy. Yeah.
So because of the position of his shoulder, medial rotation and abduction.
Yeah.
What happened at his wrist? Did you see the break in his wrist?
Yeah.
Okay. So something to look at there. It's not optimal alignment. It's not functional alignment. That can cause pain. Now I know he was in another position and he did have pain. And what we want to do is reduce the places where he has pain. The other thought that comes to mind for me here is this the position his shoulder and wrist were in when he was doing the work on the roof?
So I'm going to correct myself from last week too, Gina, 2 weeks ago. So he told me, I mean, he was doing a lot of different movements, like schlepping stuff and all that sort of thing and carrying materials and this and that. But one of the main positions he was in was he was bracing with his left arm and hammering with his right.
Overhead.
So
now he has a different joint action. What joint action is that at the shoulders?
External rotation.
Flexion.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and you're doing great being hot seated and quizzed all at the same time, Laura. So what we want to do is like all the positions that the joints are in at the onset of pain. And then afterward, when the symptoms of pain show up.
Sorry.
Don't apologize. I'm crushing on her hard. We want to know what the joint action is and what muscles do that.
Yeah. Well, and so if you're in flexion, that's going to be like scapula. That's going to be scraps. I mean, that's going to be all involved in that sort of upward motion. Humeral, I mean, all of that stuff. That's where my sticking point is a lot of times is overhead, like not having full range of motion.
And it never hurts to take out a muscle book and just review those.
What's that?
Never hurts to take out a muscle book and just review
Nope,
those.
I have one on my shelf back here actually, so I will do that.
Great. Which one do you have? Curious.
I
love a good muscle book.
have the Human Body Atlas.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know that one. Not familiar with it.
I always feel like it's good to have a good muscle book. Like I had one in my training for my personal training, but I'm like, I need like more drilled down like pictures and stuff.
Yeah. So. Sig and Adams is my favorite.
Okay. That's good to know.
Okay. So go ahead. You have more showing for us?
So, and again, coming down even in this straighter position was a little bit jarring as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. So having the arm straight down and still gripping, obviously, and all that stuff was
okay. Now wait. So pause now. Go back to the picture before.
Yeah.
What joint action's happening at the elbow?
Flexion.
Great. And go to the next picture after it.
Extension.
Right. So now we know there's a potential for another lever.
Yep.
So the muscles that do flexion of the elbow are both above and below. So you get to look at them both.
Yep.
Most of them are above, of course. Go ahead. Keep going.
And then this is the one where he's actually showing me where he feels like it's internally in there. So I was like, well, can you show me like where you feel, you know, the discomfort? And so that's what he was like, it's like, seems like it's right in here, like a little bit north of the elbow and like but it's more like like I said, more like nerve type pain.
Did you quantify with him what he meant by nerve pain?
No, but I will now.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll shoot him a note after this.
Perfect. Okay, great. Did you have another image too?
So this was him coming up just from a postural alignment position. This was him like at the top of a deadlift. So you can see he is a little rigid in the back. Like it is a little, to me, I'm not seeing a lot of the S curves when we talk about like the alignment of the spine. And again, I know it's not, no one's gonna be like perfect, but.
He's doing kettlebell swings here?
No, he's doing a staggered stance deadlift.
Okay. Is he supposed to have his weight on both feet?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like instead of doing a one-legged deadlift, I like staggered stance is another option for that if people want to, maybe they're not as good about internally rotating the hip in a one-legged deadlift, or their equilibrium or their balance isn't fantastic. It still gives you balance, but it's not quite as challenging.
What does his right foot do here? Just curious.
Yeah, sure. So his right foot, he's up on his toe. So he's engaging the glute on that. Like he's engaging more of like the posterior chain on that side.
On the right side.
Yeah. So it kind of looks like, I can show you really quick. So it kind of looks like, so you can see me. So it's like this. Actually, you feel it more on your left. The right's just kind of like the kickstand leg.
I see.
Yep.
And so does he feel pain in his left elbow, whether he's standing right-legged or left-legged dominant?
No, he didn't have any pain in this exercise. I purely took this for an alignment perspective of his back.
Okay.
No pain here.
Interesting.
Yeah. I know. So it was more like doing because his elbow, he was in in extension the whole time. I'm guessing maybe that was why he wasn't going from flexion to extension. So yeah. I know it's weird though, because to me, that's why I thought push-ups would be bothersome, because push-ups are flexion to extension too. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or am I just crazy?
No, you're not crazy. Yeah, I definitely, I need more information for sure. I definitely need more information. Do you have more pictures?
The last thing I have is just in a cat-cow position. So this is like his cow. So again, we're not seeing a ton of movement here in the thoracic spine really at all. It's just very rigid. Mm-hmm. And then even in a cat, it's better, but it's still pretty contracted in my opinion.
Yeah, he is not moving his lumbar spine either.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's what I have.
Fabulous. So what do you think now that you worked with him again yesterday and last week? What are you thinking now?
Just want to make sure YouTube's not going to mess you up again.
Who knows? Who knows? YouTube's got its own thing. It's all good.
Well, I liked that you were mentioning about where the shoulder's at, where the, I'm taking more note of that, where the gripping, like the grip strength, like where the, it seems like when he's gripping, right, we're seeing more discomfort than when he's not. And knowing, like you said, that the hand muscles are in the forearm, that gave me a little bit of like a, something to kind of percolate on a bit. The shoulder thing, yeah, that, and again, asking him like nerve, like when he says he thinks it's nerve, clarifying if that's the numbing, the tingling. Tingling was the word I was looking for earlier, by the way. I'm like, you said it. Numbing, tingling, burning,
Shooting.
or shooting. Yeah, I wrote that down too in his file. So I can ask him that question. And then just like the fact that he doesn't have a lot of curvature in like the lumbar and stuff like that as well.
He has curvature. It's not using his mobility there.
Yeah.
So awesome. Check those things out. And I also saw perpetual medial rotation and protraction of the scapula.
Okay.
And that can cause a domino effect, lots of things. Medial rotation of the shoulder and or protracted scapula can be pec minor restrictions, and then that turns into biceps, which then turns into elbow. It could be that, and it rarely starts there. So when I see that much protraction and medial rotation of the shoulder, I immediately go to the sacrum.
Yeah.
And the reason why I would do that even with your dude is because of his lack of mobility in his lumbar spine. If he's got that much mobility in his thoracic spine, in spine flexion, then he should have the same amount in spine extension. And he should also have the same amount in the other sections of his spine, and he doesn't. So there's a disparity between what's going on mobility-wise in the four curves of his spine, and that's where it all starts. Actually, it really starts at the sacrum. So right. I'm suspicious. Right? Yes, the keystone. Exactly. You're talking my language. So I'm suspicious of his sacrum, to be honest. And did you say he did have pain in a row, or he did not have pain in a row when he was doing rows?
The row was probably the most agitating exercise that he did, but the push-up was fine.
And it was the row that you showed us. It wasn't a seated row, correct?
Correct. Yeah, I don't have access to like a cable machine. I mean, I could always have him try like something that's more, like in front of him, like with a band, and see if he had the same pain. You know what I mean?
Did you, in that row, do you have do those images that you shared with us when he's in a row, does that show his pelvis?
Oh, that's a good question, Gina. Hold on. Let me check. Yes.
Let me see again.
Okay. Ooh. This is why I like coming to your calls, because I'm like, wait a minute. Share. Yeah, let's go back. Yes. Let's look at his pelvis. His arm kind of covers it here. I apologize.
It's all right. He looks tucked anyway.
Yeah. He's more tucked than not tucked, I would say, for sure. Yeah.
Correct. And we didn't see him on both sides. So we only see him with his left hip in extension. We don't see him with his left hip in flexion. So I'm suspicious of his sacrum. I mean, I'm suspicious of most sacrums, if I'm honest, but I'm suspicious of his sacrum and the disparity between right and left. So I hear you. This is another tip off. I hear you in your staggered stance. Dig it, totally dig it. And if you noticed in your body, you were doing extension of the hip and he wasn't. He just had his foot, he had his right foot behind his left, but that doesn't mean he was creating extension of his right hip.
Oh yeah, I see what you're talking about.
Look how his pelvis is almost posteriorly tilted here, while he's supposed to be doing hyperextension of his right hip. It's not happening. So I have warning bells around what's going on mechanically around his sacrum.
Yep. That makes
which,
sense.
yeah, and you could address it either way. You could address it by getting really exacting about the mechanics of the muscles because muscles move bone, or he won't be able to do it if his sacrum or his SI joint, for example, is, not functioning. So there's this overlap. We talk about this a lot in mastery. You absolutely, as a practitioner, are responsible for optimal alignment for your clients, whether they're moving or not. If you're a massage therapist, you're still responsible for their mechanics because the discomfort that they created happened while they were moving. It didn't happen while they were laying on your table, right? So we're all responsible for their alignment when they're in function. And it's funny, Laura, because this is the first question on my Q&A sheet for today. I'm not even kidding you. There was a question about somebody asked, well, let me look. Somebody asked, you talk about alignment. What exactly am I supposed to be looking for? That was the question. And here's the handle on that. What I say in my mastery program is that we're responsible for two different types of alignment. External alignment, like this. Is your foot in the right place? Is the joint doing what it's supposed to do when your foot's there? And we can see for him, no. His right foot is slightly behind his left, but he does not have extension of his right hip. His pelvis is tucked under. It's not happening. So that's external, something that you can see, you can align, right? Mm-hmm. And then there's the internal alignment, like what's going on. Are all the joint segments of the spine aligned? Is the sacrum at the SI joint actually functioning? Is the sacrum tilted? Is one side of the, anyway, we do all these measurements and we talk about probable cause and what's causing that. And someone can stand in what looks like optimal posture and still have joint segments not quite in alignment. And we're still responsible for that, but that's obviously different training. I mean, that's what we do. That's what we spend a year doing. So you could still, even if he does have a tilted sacrum, for example, if that's not yet in your wheelhouse, you could still positively influence that though by getting his external alignment exacting.
Okay.
Meaning he should be doing, external. He should be doing extension of that right hip here.
Yeah.
Can you see that he's not exactly doing that?
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely, like you said, posteriorly.
Right.
And I do some warm-up exercises with him about shifting the pelvis posteriorly and anteriorly, just to kind of like make him feel like where that's at. Because I feel like a lot of people don't I do that myself, right? Like I feel like a lot of people just don't think about that, like, or they're not really like dialed into like, this is where your pelvis is in space.
Totally. So here's the key. So let's walk this one through. I don't know if this is happening, Laura. I'm just dropping ideas in here for you to explore with your client. But let's say, so your warm-up's amazing and the reasons for it are spot on. And yet he's not creating that in function though.
Yes, correct.
So you could get someone to do a warm-up, but then the way they move is where they create their pain patterns. It's not usually in a warm-up or a cool down. So let's walk this one through. So here we can see that he's meant to be doing extension of his right hip. That's not happening. In fact, it's the opposite. He's got a posterior tilt in his pelvis, which means three things out of the gate. His glute max can't be firing, which is what supports the alignment of the sacrum. His hamstrings are in a shortened position right now, and they're supposed to support the glute max in doing their job, which then supports the sacrum. And his lumbar curve, those paraspinals are in a lengthened position because of the posterior tilt of the pelvis, which actually attach to the sacrum. So now I see three different muscle groups that are, well, the glute max isn't a group, but I see three different muscle areas that are specifically designed to hold the sacrum in a safe place. And I'm already suspicious of his sacrum. And now I'm watching him do it in function, and he's weight bearing, which means whatever's happening is being compounded.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I would, if I were you, if you don't mind me offering you what to do.
No, I would. That's why I'm here.
I like to do. Okay. So that warm up that you do about alignment of the pelvis, I would focus with him on creating that in function.
Okay.
And then keep that alignment with function and then weight bear and watch where that goes awry.
Okay.
And then interrupt the pattern.
Yeah. Like, hey.
Correcting it. By correcting it.
Yeah. Line it up. Yep. Nope, that makes complete
and
sense.
then see what that creates for him in his pelvis and in his cat-cow spine mobility. And then if any of his pain is remedied. The other thing is, can you see how protracted his scapula is here and how
Yes.
rotated his shoulder is?
Yes.
Yeah. So if it is in the shoulder and there's something residual, obviously, that's crawled up the chain, and it can also be remedied at the sacrum if that's where the starting point was. I've seen it a million times. I see it just about every week in my clinic.
Mhm.
So, but what's making it difficult for that to be remedied is that he's weight bearing in a non-optimally aligned position.
Yeah.
He's not meant to, he could have protracted scapula here because his elbows are slightly forward of his axis, but he shouldn't have medial rotation of the shoulder too.
Right. Right. That
Now
makes
we're
sense.
locking that in by weight bearing.
Right. No,
But
it makes
that's where it
sense.
starts.
Like where you always say, like, don't, I like how you always say, like, don't like, if we're going to repattern, we need to do it over like a good foundation, not like keep repatterning over something that's already like not functionally, doing well for the client. Yeah. For
Got
sure.
it. Exactly.
Cool. Thank you so much, Gina. That was super helpful.
My absolute pleasure. And you got to come back and tell us what happens.
I will.
you
I
can't
will.
leave us.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you think of anything else, let me know if there's any other assessments or modalities that you think I might want to try out, let me know.
I will absolutely keep you guys in mind. And it's good to have a picture with a sense of symptoms. That always really works too. And you get to work on his pelvis. It's the keystone. It's always the keystone. It's where it begins and ends, in the sacrum. And Laura, I don't know if I've ever shared this with you, and if I have, great. If not, this is also good. But for anybody else who's here and you're like, hey, wait a minute, I have a client like that too. The alignment conversation that we just talked about, I teach it in a few places. The external alignment I teach in Breaking Down Sun A. Don't have to be a yoga teacher to take that class. What we're looking at is, where is the body in space? Where is it meant to be? And what to look for. It's a really great class for honing your visual assessment skills in mechanics, like how people move. And then in the internal alignment, outside of the mastery program, of course, sacred sacrum.
Oh yeah, I've seen that on your website.
Yep. Really, like, how does the sacrum actually tie for everything? And it reminds me of, was it Nafia a couple weeks ago who asked the question, is it the feet? Is it the sacrum? How do you know it's the sacrum? And I was like, girl, let me tell you, this is how I know. Sacred Sacrum is a great course for that material. So we walk through that whole kit and caboodle. So let me move into the other Q&A that I had. And Laura, if you have any as I'm talking, I always prefer live than
not. And you said you had a question for me too, I think, right? Or was that the question?
That was it. What happened with your client?
Happened with the dude.
Happened with the dude, and what is happening? And now my next question is, what's going to happen next? So keep us in the loop, okay?
I will for sure.
All right, awesome. So I already answered the Q. So thanks for bringing that, Laura. Thanks for taking pictures. Like, that was super fun. It was like a little show and tell. I feel like I should bring some pictures and some slides. I might. Let me just do the FAQ for today. We did it a little bit backwards because I just could not help. But I need my vision, you guys, for all clients to be pain-free is so big that literally you light me up when you bring me client questions. But I have other questions too. So these are just questions that we gathered that either came in through like online chat, or some of you direct email me or respond to the newsletters. So thank you for all the questions that you bring. It lets me know what's up for you and how I can serve you the most. So please do keep your questions coming for sure. So this next question was great. It was, what's the best tool, manual or movement, for eliminating pain? And I read this question, I was like, oh, this person has been through a lot of CEs, and or maybe you haven't been through a lot of CEs and you don't want to screw around. You just want to like get to the gold. And I totally get that. So I love it. And I love that your focus, whoever wrote this question, I love that your focus is on eliminating pain. There's been lots of conversation that you can't eliminate pain. It's a natural response from the nervous system. Absolutely true. Absolutely true. And we can eliminate pain locally for a mechanical disturbance. When you correct the disturbance, the pain goes away. Can you imagine if, whatever age you are, that every bit of pain you've ever had in your body never went away? I mean, we'd all be crazy. We'd be lunatics by now. So it's It is true that we don't ever eliminate the body's ability to tell you that there's pain, but we can eliminate pain from a discrepancy, from a functional discrepancy, by correcting the discrepancy. So let's just be really thoughtful about, that conversation. And you guys know, I always refer to that favorite practitioner that posts on social media just to get people riled up. So that's where that came from. So here's my answer. The best tool for eliminating pain, whether it's movement or manual, is to return the body back to how it's designed. If you return the body back to how it's designed, there's no pain there. None of us was born to be in perpetual pain. We were born perfectly, right? It's a masterpiece that we're walking around in. So then the question is, well, how do you learn that? And that comes into functional anatomy and those types of training. So the body's design is the best tool for eliminating pain. And if there's other tools that you've learned along the way that can help you get the body back to the way it's designed, use them for sure. Specifically in returning the body to its design, or the 4 curves. So Laura and you and I were just talking about that, the sacrum, the lumbar curve, all the segments of the spine matter. The sacrum is the keystone. So you can work on the spine all you want. If the sacrum's out of alignment, it's not going to happen. That's my personal and professional experience of a long time. I've been at this game for a few decades now. I'm super excited about that. And if you're just using tools and not clear where you're taking somebody, like meaning where are you sending them? Are you starting at the sacrum and then moving up the axial skeleton, which is what I recommend? Or are you just sort of all over the board, ankle, elbow, shoulder, wrist, low back? If you're kind of all over the board on every time somebody moves, then it's like using your tools and playing whack-a-mole with them. So you got to have a design, like where are you heading? Back to the way the body's designed is the best tool. So there's my answer for that. Thank you for bringing that question. The other question was, what are your most recommended podcasts for body workers? I love this question, and I don't have an answer for you. My question is back at you guys. What are you listening to? You got one? Laura, what's your podcast?
So one I really like because I think that it discusses a lot of the nuance. And what I like too is that the woman is a yoga instructor, teacher, and then the guy is a personal trainer and has a PhD in exercise science, and he's a teacher. So I like how they talk about anatomy and things like that, but they also talk about like how people are going to be slightly different, and let's not talk about like perfect, but also making sure like you're talking about like it's functional. And it is called, let me get it. It's the Yoga Meets Movement podcast is what it's called.
I love it.
But I just really like how they talk about it in a and then sometimes they bring in they brought in like a physical therapist, never like people who are like real, like tight medical people, but like people who are more like physical therapy and that type of movement practitioners, and people who just really want to see people feel good in their body. But what I really love is that like the yoga woman also, they have a whole, I guess I have never checked it out, but they have a whole program about strength for yoga, talking about how yoga is wonderful and all the things, but also like it doesn't load the body, and how like we need to kind of do a little bit of both. And so on. I like that aspect of it as well. So yeah.
I love it, Laura. Thank you for the recommendation. I'll be honest, I'm not a podcast girl. I'm not one of those girls who like listens to podcasts. I listen to other things regularly. So I really appreciate the question. And if anybody else here who's listening, even on the replay, when you get to this question, if you know of podcasts that we get to listen to, please put them in the comment section, so we all can, find the riches, especially if you're a podcast listener, you really want to listen to something, So thank you for that. That was amazing. Okay. The next question is, I signed up for your advocacy program. Now what do I do? Okay. Awesome. All right. Awesome. So thank you for that. I love that you signed up. I think I know who wrote this question, because I just got an email. I got a couple of new signups for our advocacy program in the last week, which is amazing. Welcome to all of you. So here's what it is. In the SHOTS method, we have an anatomy advocacy team. And that team is a group of volunteers who are my mastery graduates. And we support other practitioners in support, service, community, and generosity. Those are the 4 pillars of our program. And the point is that we're all looking for the right stuff, and going alone is not the best choice for any of us. So, and if you're doing your CEs online, which is a wonderful addition that we've had in all of the rough stuff that's happened in the last couple of years, we have moved to a lot of online platforms, which is great. And you're even more alone when you're online if you're not doing something live like this. And even live like this, I've heard that the algorithms on YouTube have changed, and anything that's more than a 3-minute reel isn't even being viewed anymore. Like there's no algorithm anymore. So, the days of long conversations that are live online seem to be dwindling. So it's more important than ever that we have a team of people, live people that you can interface with. Azalea, you're going to get your walk soon. I just feel it. I feel it coming. So you do not have to be on the team. You do not have to support anyone else. You don't have to show up for any meetings. The answer to the question is, I signed up, now what do I do? What you do is you share the links, right? So inside the advocacy portal, there's all the links of, not all, but a lot of the programs that we have available in the online academy. And the key to that is to use those links when you share with your colleagues about what you want them to do. Maybe you heard today, like, oh, Sacrum's the one for this person, or, another training that would serve them and what they're up to in their next cut as a practitioner. So you share your link with them, and then the system records that you shared and who you shared it with. And then there's also remuneration. So yeah, you do get a commission for your stand for someone else's success, which means everybody wins. So I love that. So that's what you do. Just share the links. If that doesn't make sense to you right away, just go ahead and drop us another email, and we'll have someone from the team reach out to you, and we can even walk you through how to use those links if it's not readily understandable inside that portal to you as you're reading it. We did put some tutorials in there, but we're about people. So we're people first and tech second. So I hope that supports you, and thank you for being a stand for someone else's success, and welcome to the advocacy program. I love that you're here. Okay, next question. Do I have time? Yeah, I got a couple more questions here. Where to start when clients have pain? Okay, I think that's a full sentence. Where to start when clients have pain? I'm guessing that the question is, where do I start? What tools do I do? I don't know if what you're asking is what training you should do. I don't hear the question being asked that way, but here's my answer. Where to start when clients have pain? If you're working on your own with the skill set that you currently have right now, where to start when clients have pain is in the listening part, like we just talked about with Laura and her case study, in the listening part, which would be the SOAP, the S of your SOAP charting. So if you're using SOAP charting to take your client records down, it's the subjective part of your SOAP charting. So subjective, objective, assessment, and protocol plan. In listening, there is more information than you can possibly guess. My experience with practitioners is that as soon as a client starts talking, they check out from the conversation and their mind starts racing is, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And I'm going to invite us all to just take a breath, just relax, open your earballs, and just listen a little longer, because there's going to be an answer about what to do in your client's sharing. So don't jump so far into plan. Like if you just think about the SOAP charting, the acronym of SOAP, if your client's talking and telling you what they're experiencing and you're jumping all the way to planning the P, what do I do about it? You've skipped 3 steps. Yes, Laura, exactly. You tend to want to fix people. You can, that's the point, but not if you jump through some steps, right? So if you're in the planning protocol part of your SOAP charting, you've missed 3 steps along the way, right? You haven't done enough listening or enough observing and enough trial and error to hear the body talking. So another thing that we say in the mastery program is that when you are working with a client and you absolutely can fix them, and I know, Laura, you put it in air quotes, we don't fix anybody. We just guide the body back to where it can be so that it can fix itself. Like, let's be honest about what our ego is really up to here. but your support and being in service with someone to eliminate their pain is real. There's no question. And if you're here training more and more, those results just continue to grow in their possibility. So it's absolutely what you're here for, and I get it. And what we say in mastery is that when you're meeting with a client, there's 3 of you in the room. There's you, the practitioner, and all that you know, and all of your knowledge, and all of your experience, and all of your how-to. There's your client and their experience and their history and all the things you don't know because you haven't been with them every day of their life. So they've got a whole wealth of knowledge for you about how did the body get to the place that it's in when it shows up in front of you to be resolved of whatever its ailment is. And then there's the body. Like the body gets to weigh in on what's up. The body gets to respond to whether or not this worked. And practitioners seem to get themselves tripped up there too. Like, oh, if this didn't work, that must mean something about me. And my invitation again is to stop making it all about you. It's the body is telling you something different. It's like I use the analogy like a hungry baby. You know, if the baby's crying, you don't know if it's hungry or if it needs a diaper change. Now, I know there's some moms here that are listening that are like, oh, I could tell the cry is different. Right. But if totally and absolutely. And if you're working with a client for the first time, you're not sure what's the body saying. And that's the point. It's that the body is talking. It's not that you know it all. It's the body is telling you, I need this. I need a little less that. I need a little more that. Yes, that worked, but I need it done this way. So give the body a chance to also talk to you. And we use that same analogy when we're doing our measurements. So we talked earlier about alignment, that there's the external alignment, what's happening functionally in all the joints. And then there's the internal alignment, what's happening with the bones relative to each other in motion as well. I'm not talking chiropractic. We're not going to jump lanes here. There is a way for practitioners to know what the internal alignment and function is. That's an internal process, and that's 100% the body talking. That's 100%. So you and the client could go about it for 90% of your session with them and really miss this key piece of what's the body got to say. So I would say in where to start with, to answer the question specifically, where to start when clients have pain, spend more time in the subjective part of your intake and really deeply listen. Like, don't rush that. Some practitioners say, oh, but if I'm not working, then I think my client, blah, blah, blah. Look, if you're going to put together an active and effective treatment plan, you got to have a treatment plan. Don't jump to it and then monkey around. Your clients are going to like that either. So just enroll them in sharing openly, listen intently, make it worth your time, that you're not just listening to be nice. It's not what it's about. I mean, be nice, but that's not why I listen. I listen because I'm trying to hear what the body has to say. And then let the body be a third entity, a third person, if you will, in the room while you're working, and let the 3 of you work that out together. We do that's like a big, huge chunk of what we do in the mastery program. Okay, I have time for one more question. So I have 2 more questions on the sheet. So confidence, you talk a lot about confidence. How do I know if I have it and how can I build it? Oh, it's such a sweet question. Okay, well, here, first thing I want to say is if you're not feeling confident yet, that's okay. And my intention is not for you to walk around and like fake it till you make it. I'm not a big believer in that. But there's a formula that I believe and I know works because I've tried it myself. And that is that competence builds confidence. Competence builds confidence. And competence is a 2-way street. So competence is knowledge and skill, meaning you got to be super smarty pants about the body. You got to know applied functional anatomy. You got to know joint actions. You got to know muscles. You got to know your stuff, right? And that's totally in our wheelhouse. If we're body experts, how can we be a body expert if we don't know the joints and the joint actions, right? I mean, just think about it backwards. It doesn't make any sense, right? So you got to really be competent. You got to know your stuff. You got to absolutely know your stuff. And the other piece of competence is you've got to actually implement it, right? So I know a lot of practitioners who study and take all the CEs. They know all the knowledge, and they haven't actually really worked it out yet with a client. And some of working it out is getting it wrong, right? Like not every treatment plan is, you know, a ballpark home run. Sometimes we only get to first base or second base, you know, and you got to like really troubleshoot to get them to home plate the next time, you know, the next session. Give yourself permission to try that out and to be a beginner when you're a beginner so that you can build the skill of the two-part competence formula. Because when you have competence, you will then have confidence, meaning I know what works, I know what doesn't work. I've humbled myself enough to dig back into my books or to call a mentor or ask a colleague a question or to go back into a training or whatever it is for you. Like be willing to be the beginner so that you can get to the state of being excellent at the knowledge and the skill. And that's how you build your confidence. So thank you for that question. I love it. I love the vulnerability in it. And yeah, let me just say one more thing about that. You know, give yourselves a lifetime to build the skill and the knowledge that you're looking for. Because if you've chosen the body as your muse, it's an endless topic. There is no one on the planet who has all the answers about the body, because at some stage of the game, even when you get down to embryology and like cell development from the embryo, there's still questions that are left unanswered, even by the smartest research scientists on the planet. So if you think that you're going to know it all, like by the time you graduate YTT or a year after massage therapy school or after your first, you know, license renewal CE, no, give yourself a lifetime to be a student of the body and, you know, be humble enough while you're there and then keep going. And then as you keep going and building your knowledge and building your skill set, you'll then build your competence and then you'll have confidence. Okay. And don't go it alone. Don't go alone. It's the whole mission of our advocacy team that we don't get to do this alone. It's much easier in a hive mind. Okay, I'm looking at the last question. I have just 2 minutes left, and this is a quick one and an easy one, and I want you to know it. I love your summits. When is your next one? Thank you. I love our summits too. It's my favorite thing to do. It's a big overhaul. It's like one of the biggest parties we throw in an entire year. That's why we only do one a year. At one point, I had an objective to host 2 a year, and I don't have the manpower to make that happen yet, but it doesn't mean I won't. But we're definitely having another summit. They're 3-day live summits. You don't have to be present the whole time. I know we're all working with clients, but the replays are available at the end of every day. We have about 18 to 20 experts that come and talk about a single topic, all for manual and movement practitioners. It's the best of the best. We are so excited. This year, 2023, our next summit is the last week of April. So mark your calendars. It's usually Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. You'll get emails if you're on the list. If you're on our email list and you're getting my monthly newsletters, you'll definitely get a heads up to mark the calendars. And then, of course, you can sign up through the links there, and then you'll get all the reminder emails. But just know that it's the last week of April. Thank you for your enthusiasm. Thank you for those of you who've come in the past. If you've never been to one of the Shots Method summits, you got to come. They're so good. We have such amazing smarty pants colleagues in our industry, and they're so generous. They like pour out for 3 days straight, which is great. Okay, so that's it. I got through all the Q&A on the questions for today, which is amazing. We got to troubleshoot with Laura on some good case studying and some client work. Laura, you got any last bits before we go? No, thanks for hanging out until the end and for Azalea for being calm for a couple minutes so we can get to the end of the hour here. Appreciate it. And for those of you who are listening on the replay, tell us in the comments what landed for you the most, what's your biggest takeaway, and of course, any other questions that you have. I love you guys. Thank you for trusting me and playing with me.